3, 2, and 1. Madam Speaker, we think the intelligence quotient IQ is largely a social construct. Like, let's be real, right? The standardized tests we take in school that determines our IQ is largely made by the state to control us and impose their own opinions upon us. Because if IQ was real and was tangible as government claims, then I'd be in my room studying like advanced trigonometry and not debating. Thank God I'm not doing that. Like, I understand that having the perception of intelligence is important to your own self-image because it provides a bunch of benefits as government claims, like proclaims, right? But we believe in the grand scheme of things, the quality and quantity of your life ought to be decided by other things, right? Like by your own personal definition of happiness, by your own determination, by love, literally like 500 other things not contingent on intelligence. But when you impose the monopoly of the state in order to gauge and control the prices of your IQ, of other people's IQ, that is precisely the point in which IQ is all that matters. And ironically enough, it actually makes people less intelligent. More on that idea later. 3 strategic observations in the round so far. Number 1, OG to a large extent drinks the Kool-Aid that IQ is something real, tangible, and you know what? With their case, that does indeed happen, right? To the damage of the vast majority of the people, particularly the poor. That's my first extension. Secondly, OO focused their case on individuality. We think that while that is a valid case, it gets superseded by the missing link of the perception of IQ of what it actually does. Just because DLO mentioned it doesn't mean it's not a valid extension, as they didn't really make it. Thirdly, CG rides a very fine line between this is their only choice. Like, I'm really sorry to intuition pump this panel, but as my partner's POI said, they're like one level away from justifying slavery. What are my extensions? Firstly, why allowing this to happen leads to the state subsidizing discrimination. Secondly, why the average person will not just feel less intelligent, they actually will be less intelligent. First, before that, rebuttals. Number 1, both opening teams assume that IQ is this magic elixir that will completely make your life better. We agree with OO that our IQ is shaped by our experiences, but more importantly, it's not the only thing that sets you up for success. You have things like working smart, being disciplined, getting lucky, having generational wealth, a bunch of other things. These all largely affect your ability to be successful. The problem with Gov is that you now reinforce having a high IQ as the sole and primary means of being successful, when it becomes the most sought after commodity, when you create a perverse incentive structure that pushes the desperate to sell it and the greedy to buy it. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a state-sanctioned, state-subsidized, and state-supported discrimination when the state seeks to define what it means to be successful. Secondly, it's quite ironic that DPM talks about EQ because don't they also say that the smarter you are, e.g. the higher IQ that you have, the less happy you are. That's why a lot of successful people find life meaningless and fall into some existential midlife crisis. So it's actually on Gov's side that things like smart work, discipline, and the ability to transcend hardship and adversity are seen as second priority as opposed to just accumulating IQ points over and over again. Lastly, following what MG tells us, then selling myself to slavery or prostitution becomes a legitimate and justifiable means to get out of my student debt or to get out of the poverty-stricken disenfranchisement I find myself in. We think that this is modern-day slavery, wherein the poorest of the poor are at best given an illusion of choice, but in reality, you skew them to sell themselves literally their own black market. What is my extension? Firstly, should the state allow this to happen? Like, legitimately, it's a policy motion, right? We should also talk about that. We tell you that biting OG's framing, the means in which you pursue intelligence is tied to a number, and that pursuit in and of itself is dictated by the state. Why is this important? This is important insofar as it causes the happiness and success and all of the supposed good things that Gov fights for to be controlled by the state in which you live in. Why? 3 reasons. First, the state has the power to mold the perception of people towards higher IQ. Like, this is just me restating the positives of Gov, right? Kids with low IQ will be given IQ. Everyone who has like learning deficiencies can now become better. What OO missed in their analysis and rebuttal to this is not that it's just not like offensive, right? Even if it is, right? But rather that it forces these particular people into a particular and certain mold. Secondly, low IQ people will either get abused, discriminated against, or thought of as lesser. Because think of it, Madam Speaker, if this technology actually exists, the fools, are those who don't opt into this, right? Who don't have the means in order to get this because everyone will see it as a commodity. Who wouldn't want becoming smarter, right? At least, on a fucking number. We think the harm here is that the state skews it so much to this extent that opting out of it will seem weird. Thirdly, the definition of intelligent now just becomes largely this one-note thing, especially dictated by the state. I.e., the stereotype of the average intelligent person now will be necessarily be skewed towards being a person who bought IQ themselves because they were economically franchised to begin with. All of this is bad and even more compacted by my second extension. Because we have to ask, what does this commodification really look like? And why is the average person just happier on our side? I think it's actually pretty simple. Intelligence only matters insofar as you experience what it feels like to not be intelligent to begin with, right? To feel stupid, to feel dumb, to actually struggle. Why? Because the visceral feeling and understanding that you feel is actually what dictates and transforms your competency. That's what dictates the feeling of intelligence and the feeling of good that you have in yourself that, what I am doing, because all of the things I know are actually supported by my innate learning of things, right? What happens here is that the person who buys the IQ might be on the same level, as in on the same level of a number, but they don't have the same level of, they don't have the same level of experience, they don't have the same level of struggle, the hard work, all of that other stuff. So all of CG's claims on this being a means of education will just fall under, right? Because inherently the person, even though they have the same 115 IQ, will inherently be lesser as opposed to the experienced person who has it naturally. We think all of these things are very important insofar as we don't want the state controlling our definition of what it means to be intelligent. We don't want the state to control what it means to commodify our own personal intelligence. We want happiness on our own terms. We want intelligence on our own terms. For all of those reasons, I'm very proud of the course. Okay.